Welcome to our webinar today.
Good evening, Miss.
Good evening, Richard. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good to see you here.
Thank you. Good to hear from you. Okay, our audience, I hope we're all doing good. Welcome to the webinar, interactive webinar. Okay. My names are RADHIKA GHELANI, and I am one of the tutors at MAT, in case some of you know me. So I teach the taxation paper as well as the financial reporting paper at MAT Abacus. A brief introduction about me is that I've been in the teaching field for over 13 years now, personally, and ACCA myself. I've also had my master's in finance. And yeah, so academically, those are my qualifications, and professionally been in the teaching field, although I have done ACCA, but education has always been my passion. So I've been into education throughout my professional career, teaching a wide range of business and finance courses over the 13 years. And before being a tutor, like I told you, my qualification is ACCA. So today I'm here to talk about, as you can see, our topic for the webinar is from preparation to peak performance, okay? And I'm not going to tell you this solely from the viewpoint of a tutor, okay? I am going to tell you from the viewpoint of a student as well, because I've been there, I've done that, and I know what it takes to achieve the excellence, okay? So don't think, I know, students have a notion that teachers always say things are easy, yeah? Because, I mean, they're teachers, they know it all. That's not true. Before being teachers, okay, yeah, we do know it all. So yeah, that's why we're teachers. But before being teachers, remember, we were also students, okay? And we've also gone through the journey that you are going through right now. And so we know the hurdles, we know the challenges, we know what works, we know what fails. And so today I'm here to give you my insights on what it takes to get you the peak performance, okay? So what is my viewpoint on how to prepare for ACCA exams like a top performer? Before I start, Richard, you have something to share? Sorry, I just took on the platform.
Thank you very much, Miss RADHIKA, for creating this time for the team, and purposefully why we came up with the idea of this session is we have had a bit of a challenge of our students who don't know the right resources to use for the exam preparations. There's just too much for us in the market, and it creates a bit of confusion in the students. So we would want you as a tutor, basically, for you to tell us exactly what should the student do in order for them to study, practice, and then pass the exam. And just after her presentation, we shall have more Q&A. This meeting is open across the on-demand papers, that is the first 4 papers of ACCA, to the skills, to the strategic professionals, all those questions. And that's why we let it to be an open kind of discussion. Thank you very much. I would just want to appreciate and everyone who has turned up for this. We shall have also a recording posted for the students. Thank you. I submit for now.
Thanks. Thank you, Richard. Okay, so let's see, what's the plan for today? What am I going to talk about? Okay, so I'm going to cover basically why students fail even after studying a lot. As a tutor throughout my journey, I've had students coming to me, of course, with their joys of passing, but then also many have come to me saying that, Miss, I really read. It's not like I didn't prepare. And then, so why have I still failed? So it's not just about a lot. It's not about quantity. It's about quality. Okay, so we're going to focus on what the quality aspect is. We're going to focus on how to build an effective ACCA study strategy. Some people, are just lost. Where do I begin from? Of course, we're nearing exams, so I'll focus on the exam part more. We're also going to focus on common revision mistakes that almost everyone makes as a student. And then we'll look at how to move from learning to practicing and finally to performing. Like Richard mentioned, there are a lot of resources also available these days. And so because of the information overload, You may find it overwhelming that, I want to cover my tutor's notes, I want to cover the course book, I want to cover the revision kit, I want to cover the study hub, but then is that all practically possible? I know it's challenging, so I'm going to tell you how to use the ACCA resources properly. We'll also talk about time management and exam technique. And like Richard said, this is across papers, okay? So I'm going to give you general exam technique, not specific to any paper. So it works for all papers, basically. We'll also talk about how to build confidence before the exam, because a lot of students have read, they've prepared well, and then on the day of the exam, they get their nerves. So how are we going to build confidence before the exam? And we shall look at what the top performing students do differently. Okay, so that's the plan for this webinar. Now, starting with a reality check. A lot of ACCA students, they believe that ACCA is a memory test. Back in the days, in my time, we used to get physical copies of the books. And the first thing we look at is how many pages are there in this book. And then we're like, oh my God, how am I going to remember all this? But that's where the issue is. ACCA is not really a memory test. You don't just have to revise your concepts and memorize them. ACCA is about application of the concepts, okay? You need to understand the concept. You don't need to memorize exactly what has been described about the concept. It's also about time management. You may know things, but are you able to put all those things in the exam in a 3-hour time frame or a 2-hour for if you're on the knowledge level, okay? It's also about professional judgment. Professional judgment comes later on in the ACCA journey when you finished your skill papers and you're on the professional level. So, but you transition, okay? The entire journey has been laid out in such a way that you get these skills and you build on. In the initial levels, yes, there is application, but it won't be as much as the skills levels. There will be professional judgment in the skills level. It won't be as much as the professional levels, okay? So there are transitions, and depending on what stage of the exam journey you are on, certain skills, all these skills matter the most. It's not like they're specific to any level. Consistency is key. Today, if you wake up and say, I've read 5 hours, and then you chill for the rest of the week, do you think the 5 hours that you read were any good? You wasted the whole week just because one day you overwhelmed yourself with a lot of reading. Instead, read 1 hour a day for 5 days. That's more important. Consistency will help you keep in pace. And then we also have exam temperament. What is exam temperament? Exam temperament is basically the ability to stay calm, to stay focused, to stay disciplined and composed in an exam. Don't panic in the exam. A lot of students just get overwhelmed with the exam environment. There's computers, there are many students. There's a cold AC going on. Those who are not used to the AC, so they freeze, and that makes them even more nervous. There's a very strict looking examiner walking around. Don't let those things scare you, okay? And for that to not happen, I'm going to tell you, I'm just telling you, don't let that scare you. And you may be like, that's easier said than done. But how can you avoid that? I'm going to tell you exactly what to do so that you don't get the nerves on your exam day, okay? Now, what's the biggest ACCA myth? Most students believe that they need to finish the entire syllabus perfectly before they practice. And that's where they lose it, The course book, we get our BPP textbooks, and many students read that book so perfectly. And in fact, not just one time, they read it multiple times because of this particular thing, the biggest ACCA myth, where they think that they should finish the entire syllabus perfectly. And that's when they'll then move on to the practice and the revision kit. And that's what differentiates the top performers from the ordinary students. Top students start practicing early, okay? Your progress is always going to be measured by not the number of pages that you've highlighted in your course book that, okay, these are my notes, this is important, let me perfect it. Your progress is measured by the number of questions you've attempted. Question attempting is key in any paper in ACCA. The course book is not the main book. The questions and the revision kit is what is going to get you to pass. And if you've been in my class, you know that I can't stress enough how important it is to practice questions and not just focus on your class notes or your coursework. So what do weak students usually do? Weak students usually read endlessly. And this is why I'm telling you, many students come to me and say, Miss, but I really read. I put in the effort. And this is what I'm telling you, that quality matters more than quantity. If you've read the course book 3 times, but you didn't even touch the revision kit once, that's where the problem was. Reading endlessly is not going to help you. Practicing is going to help you. Weak students highlight everything, and they make this is a habit of girls. I'm not being gender biased, but then I've seen a lot of girls with very pretty notes, different colored pens, highlighting everything, and even writing the same thing that is there in their textbook. They're writing it saying that I remember more because I write. But are you really making the best use of your time by doing that? Yes, there are people who remember well by writing, but then don't, just writing the notes is not it's not the only thing that's going to get you the pass. That's going to take up a lot of your time. And remember that you need to leave the most of your time for practicing, not for taking in the concepts. Okay, we all, I'm assuming we attend class, okay, or we do study somehow or the other. So when you attend class, if you have been attending all the lessons, if you've been paying attention, when your teacher gives you a number in class, if you've been solving it, trust me, you have very little need of even going back and reviewing things in detail, because you're in class, you're putting your 3 hours there to learn a concept. So you've already learned when with your teacher in class, he or she has given you numbers, you've practiced. So that's your coursework done. You don't need to go back and read the entire topic A to Z. Of course, if there's something that, the tutor covered fast or you missed in class, yeah, you can go and glance at that again. But then you don't, that works. That used to work for me. It may work for some of you, but some of you may like to go back and revisit everything. But what I'm trying to say is, if you pay attention in class, it really reduces the amount of time you have to spend on going back and reading the same chapter in the course book, And another thing that weak students do is that they delay practice. That's where strong students, take the upper hand. They practice immediately. They've finished a topic, they are on questions, they are on the study hub doing questions. If they have a revision kit or if their teacher has shared some questions, that's where their focus is on. Their focus is not on reading the notes that their tutor gave, okay? So strong students learn a topic, they practice immediately, they review their mistakes quickly, and they repeat their weak areas. And this is the funny part, a lot of us as students, instead of repeating weak areas, we want to completely ignore our weak areas. And, we tend to say that, okay, you know what, I'm good at these 4 or 5 topics. So I'm going to read them so perfectly, and I'm going to hope and pray that the topic that I'm bad at is not going to come in the exam. And then guess what? You reach the exam and there's the 20 marker on that very topic that you decided to ignore. Don't think that by perfecting 5 topics that you like, you will get away with, not being good at 1 or 2 topics that you hate. That's the worst thing to do. Your weak area, that is the one that you repeat, so that there is nothing that you go to the exam saying that I hope this doesn't come. Because trust me, I don't know what luck is there, but every time or many times you feel that this topic will not come, let's hope and pray. We all have, maybe we've had an experience that that's the very question that comes in the section C for the highest number of marks, isn't it? So repeat your weak areas and review your mistakes quickly. Now, how do you learn the syllabus properly? How do you study without wasting your time? Okay, after every study session that you have, simply ask yourself, first of all, can I explain this topic simply? Maybe a lot of us have discussion groups, sit down with your friend quickly and then explain the key areas in the topic, Secondly, ask yourself, can I solve a question on this topic? And thirdly, can I apply this topic to a given scenario? We all know ACCA is about application, okay? It's not just about knowledge. So in section B, in many papers, you have cases where the questions are related to the case. You need to apply your knowledge to the case. Section C, we know how our section C is structured. There is always a scenario. So can you apply your topic to a scenario? If the answer to any of that is no, that means that you need to go back and review the topic. But if the answer to all those 3 questions is yes, it means you're good, okay? You're good on that topic. So what's the practical study formula? You need to learn, you need to recall by seeing if you remember what the contents of the topic were, you need to practice, and then you need to review, Okay, once you practice always highlights your strong and weak areas. So obviously you go back and review your weak areas, that where did I make the most mistakes? So this is the topic that is causing a problem to me. And that's what will help you get better before your exam. What should you avoid? Avoid passive reading. What is passive reading? Just reading, turning your pages, and sitting through to convince yourself falsely that I have done my revision for the day. Sitting with a textbook and reading and not really getting anything into your brain is pointless. You rather not even waste your time sitting with that book, okay? Rewriting textbook notes repeatedly. This is for students who like writing a lot of notes and those who believe that writing helps. Writing does help, provided you have a lot of time, okay? And some of us are busy people. We go to work, we have other commitments. So is writing the same notes that are in the textbook or the same notes that your tutor gave you benefiting you more than answering questions? Think about that. Is that the best use of your time, okay? And then another thing that you should avoid is studying without questions. Like I'm going to emphasize in all my slides, you may just hear me repeatedly say questions, questions, questions. They matter the most, okay? Don't just study the theory, put that into application. Now we have what we call active revision versus passive revision. Why do students forget things? There've been a lot of scenarios where students say that, oh, you know what? My brain froze in the exam. I know that I read this, but I don't know what happened. I went to the exam and my brain froze. And this is the reason why, active revision versus passive revision. What is passive revision about? Like I told you, just reading notes repeatedly or watching the recorded lectures of your tutors continuously, thinking that, yeah, that's how I'm revising. That's how I'm preparing for my exams by just watching the same lecture again and again. You come and sit in my class for 3 hours, as if that was not boring enough. You go home and watch me for another 3 hours talking about the same thing. Now, I know that, sometimes tutors can go fast in class, or maybe you didn't understand so well, so you want to do it again. Fine. For those areas that you found hard, you can go and do that. But then if you've already attended class, do you really need to go and watch every lecture again? And thinking that, your memory will get stronger with that. Yeah, okay, your memory may get stronger, by repetition, but then you're simply taking in the basics, Are you seeing how to apply whatever is being taught in that lecture? That's only going to come if you test yourself on how much you've understood through doing questions, okay? So what is active revision about? Active revision is about using summaries, flashcards. We all know the ACCA Study Hub. As an ACCA student, we all have access to the Study Hub. So there are flashcards, which are basically summary notes for each topic, okay? After you finish a topic, instead of going back whenever you forget things, instead of reading the whole topic again, maybe use the flashcards, the summaries, and that will, it will flash your memory on an area that you forgot. Do some self-testing. Recall, how much do I remember? Without seeing the textbook, mentally go through the concepts and test yourself. How much do I remember? Okay, what question did we apply this concept to? What did my teacher, what were the different questions we covered in class? And in each different question, what was the different... Reagan, can you please mute? Yeah, thank you. So what was the different scenario that was, where did my teacher apply this concept to? And if that concept comes back again, am I going to be able to use my knowledge to overcome that scenario? Okay. Practice questions under timed conditions. A lot of us are good, we do manage to get the answer, but one particular problem I've seen, and I've seen it a lot, I've taught students in different backgrounds, but I've noticed that one challenge we have here is that we face a problem with time management. Even in class, a lot of us, when I give numbers, and my students complain I'm fast, okay? And yes, maybe I am fast, but then there's a reason, there's a, just like you have a deadline in your exam of 3 hours, I also have a deadline to complete the syllabus in some sessions, but anyway, they're ample sessions, okay? And the thing is, a lot of us are slow. We know we could get a perfect answer, but then we would need 6 hours for that. But remember, 6 hours is not what you have. You have 3 hours. And that's never going to change. And so you can't just say that, oh, miss, I I know the answer, but then the time is too less. The time is not less, okay? The examiner has not just decided the 3 hours out of the blue. He knows that that is enough time to complete the paper that he has set for you. So it is you who is slow, or it is you who is having the wrong exam technique. Are you spending 45 minutes on a 5-mark question? Then obviously you're not going to finish the rest of the questions, okay? There is a time management, where they say that we know it's a 3-hour exam. So that's 90 minutes, and we know it's 100 marks. So allocate 1.8 minutes per mark, depending on how your paper structure is. Multiply for section C, for section B, multiply the number of marks multiply the number of marks in each section times 1.8 minutes per mark, okay? And you will get a broad idea of how much time to spend in each section. Keep your watch with you there. And if you're exceeding that time limit, just know that you need to move on, okay? You cannot spend so much time on one section thinking that you will aim to get the full marks on that section, and that should save you from not attempting the rest of the questions. No, you may end up failing on 49. Trust me, that's where the issue comes, okay? Another form of active revision is teaching someone else. A lot of us engage in discussion groups, and that's good. Of course, it should not be your only way of studying, okay? I discourage having discussion groups as the only way of studying, but it could be one of the ways of studying. So once you've memorized something, you can just sit with your friend and teach them. And that brings back your memory, that forms the concept. But don't just, like I said, don't just use discussion groups as the only method for studying, because there are some of us who are so good at certain topics, and we have friends who are weaker. So it's always you explaining to them. But what about the areas that you find challenging? Who's discussing for you? Okay, so you're not working on your weak areas if you are only discussing for others. So be careful on that one. And then you can write from memory. Like I told you, instead of, I said that avoid looking at the textbook and writing the same thing. But you could write from memory. Just pull out a paper after you finish a topic, studying a topic, from your memory, put out the main points, that what is the main thing that is there important in this topic. And that way, when you write from memory, rather than opening a textbook or opening your tutor's notes and copying them down, that's not going to help you. But writing from memory is active revision. Then my favorite area, the power of question practice. Okay, practice is where the marks are built. Question practice, what does question practice improve? It improves your application skills, because you learn to apply the concept to different scenarios, and that's what your exam is going to test you on. When you practice questions, it helps you on your time management. It also helps you on your professional writing, okay? Because just reading is not going to help you. When you apply your reading to something, when you write it down, there are certain questions that are long. Certain papers that require a lot of theory, audit. There is also the SBL papers where we need to have professional writing skills. And doing questions is what is going to help us build that. Doing questions also builds our confidence. It gives us the speed, and it also helps us identify our weak areas, because after doing questions, once you review them, you'll see what you did well, you'll see where the problem was. Just looking at the course book and not doing any questions. There's a funny example I once encountered. Someone told me that just looking at course notes and not doing any practice is similar to watching gym videos and expecting to get six-pack abs, just by watching the gym videos. That's not going to happen, okay? You need to go there and do the exercise yourself. And you need to go there and do the questions for you to get those marks. So another thing about question practice, and I faced this in my last semester. I think there was a student who told me that, you know what, I've practiced questions, but I've practiced section A and B questions, and I'm so good at that I'm ready for the exam. And then come revision time, and when we did section C questions, the student really realized that, oh, I'm actually having a problem with section C. So they were very comfortable with the objective type questions that they kept doing. They finished the entire revision kit on the OT questions, and they were very confident. But it's encouraging once we get things right. Of course, we're going to get things right on the topics we're comfortable with, but that doesn't mean that you keep doing only that. In fact, it's the weak topics that deserve the most attention. You don't like section C, do section C the most. If you're very good with section A and B, why are you doing section A and B? And that applies to particular topics also in each individual paper. If you like topic A or B, don't keep repeating that you're already good at that. You're wasting your time, okay? Do the weak topics. Much as you're going to hate it, you're going to fail it when you start practicing. But then the more you practice, the better you'll get. And your weak topics will soon convert and become your comfortable topics, okay? So that's the right way to do question practice. There are students who say that we have practiced questions, but we still failed. This is the reason why. They practiced questions on the topics they were good at and ignored topics that needed their attention, and that's the problem. So when should you start question practice? A lot of students wait for the last 10 or 15 days and say that, okay, now I'm comfortable with the syllabus, I'm going to start my question practice. Read what I've written there. You should start your question practice earlier than you think, okay? And maybe it's too late to follow what I've already written there, but at least you can keep that in mind for your future exams as well. So you must practice questions for every topic immediately after the learning phase. You've covered a topic, go to the study hub and do questions from there. If you have a revision kit with you, the BPP revision kits, even Kaplan, they're designed in a way that they're broken down chapter-wise. So you finish the chapter, go do the corresponding questions from that chapter, okay? In the revision phase, do mixed topic practice. So instead of focusing on the individual questions, focus on mixed questions, the section C questions. They bring a variety of topics mixed into one. And during the final weeks, just before our exams, we must focus on mocks. Even at MAT, we are having mocks ongoing right now, and they've already sent out the schedule. So please don't avoid them, okay? You must practice full mocks during the final weeks, because mocks are a reality check before the ACCA exam, trust me. Okay, they will tell you what you're good at, what you're bad at, including exam techniques, time management. You could know the answers in a mock, but then you could realize that, the time was up before you finished a whole section C question. So all that, you need to know that before you go to the final exam. The exam should not be the day. Question practice, timed practice, make sure that you keep, the textbooks have 3 mocks each. And even not, of course, mock should be done under timed conditions. And we are going to have 1 mock from MAT. All your tutors are setting you a mock for each subject. But aside of doing the 3 mocks in the textbooks in a timed manner, you can also just select random questions. Select a random section B question. Look at the time allocated. In the textbooks, it's written the number of minutes to spend on each question. Pick a random section C question, do it as timed practice, okay? You don't need to even do a whole paper. At least the section B or the section C questions in a timed manner. You need to review your mistakes in the final weeks, completely put aside the topics you're good at and focus on your weak topics. Do the mock exam set and then review your exam technique. Where are you going wrong? What's working for you? What's not? And make a plan on what I need to do. If I'm bad at time management, then of course, practice more questions under timed practice. If I'm bad at section B questions, focus on section B questions, okay? That's the right exam technique. What should you avoid in the final weeks? Avoid starting new study materials randomly. Please, okay, don't go. I mean, if maybe you have a friend studying in another part of the world and they say that, oh, my tutor gave me fantastic notes. And you say, okay, share it with me. Let me read those notes. No, you should not start any new study materials in the final weeks before your exam, okay? Avoid watching endless last-minute tip videos. There's so many videos that are there on YouTube on different papers and, tips to pass exams, whatnot. Please, that's not what's going to help us. I mean, of course, it will help us, but not in the final weeks. That's not what we should be focusing on, okay? And avoid comparing yourself to others. Your friends may come boasting that, oh, I'm so ready. I've done the revision kit 5 times. And then you just wonder, oh my God, I'm still not even halfway through. Just don't compare, okay? Everyone's different. The one who has done it 5 times, just imagine how would they have done it so fast? Maybe they've not really, understood the things. They just went glancing at the concepts and thought they were good with the concepts. So don't compare yourself to others, okay? Now, how do top students review their mistakes? Areas that they go wrong on, how do they focus on them? So mistakes are basically a study material. What's a mistake log? Take a book. What topic was focused on in this question? Can you hear me properly? I'm getting
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So in your mistake log, write the name of the topic from the question you attempted. Note down the mistake you made. Okay, did I make a mistake in calculating a ratio, or did I make a mistake in answering the theory part wrong? Then, first note down the mistake and then ask yourself why it happened. Then look at the correct approach. Of course, there are answers after the end of each question in the kit. Okay, so what's the right way to do it? Or go and ask your teacher that the method that you've learned in class may be different from the answer in the textbook. So ask your tutor, what would be the correct approach for this? And then practice a similar question again. There are many questions in the revision kit. So practice something again and see, now am I getting it right? Or do I face the same challenge again? If you are facing the same challenge, repeat the same process. Look at the correct approach and then practice it again. Okay, this is how you will benefit, not by studying the things that you are good at. Mistakes are a very good study material. Okay, take note of your mistakes and follow these steps. So weak students repeat their mistakes. Strong students track their mistakes and improve them. And this is how you can track your mistakes. Now, what about the issue of time management? A lot of us have different commitments. A lot of us are working professionals, and I understand that we're quite caught up with those engagements. So the good news is that you don't really need 12 hours a day or 10 hours a day or whatnot. If you focus on consistency, if you focus on deep focus. Now, what is deep focus? Sitting with your book and your mind is somewhere on what to do on the weekend. The book is in front of you. Yes, the page is open, but is your focus there? Your focus is not there, okay? Deep focus is when you are actually into what you're doing. And if you focus on quality practice, that's enough. And that can happen in a few hours a day rather than 12 hours, okay? And in fact, I personally, let me tell you my story, as a very lazy reader. So there are some people who say that we can pull off, reading in the last 1 week before exams, but till date, I wonder how that's possible. And I know I have students who have told me that, but if you start early, this may not work right now, right before your exams. Although for revision, it's a good technique. We still have some days before the exam. So if you start your revision now, today or tomorrow, okay, you don't need to do so many numbers per day, unlike if you would start doing the revision kit 1 week before the exams. I know a lot of us get holiday, a week before the exams or 3 or 4 days, and that's what you think, that's the time you'll use. But I know even if you go to work, you can come home and do 2 questions or 4 questions, depending on the time you have, so that you don't wait to do 20 questions in the 1 week that you have before the exam. So a few hours a day consistently is more powerful than a lot of hours in a few days, okay? Use what we call the Pomodoro technique. What is the Pomodoro technique? Has anyone heard about it? I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's a very popular technique. It's a very popular technique for studying as well as even in productivity. What's it about? Basically, the idea is that you work in short focused sessions followed by short breaks. What does that mean? You study for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break and repeat the same thing 4 times. So at least you have spent 25 minutes 4 times focused rather than sitting there for 3 hours. Yet by the end of the first half an hour, your mind was switched off. No, just give yourself 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. Again, go back for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. And that way, you'll stay more focused, okay? So that's what we call the Pomodoro technique. And then study difficult topics when your energy is highest. So maybe if you are a morning person, if you go to work, wake up half an hour early and then study the hardest topic. And then after you come back from work and you're tired, then you can leave the easier topics to focus on. That helps, okay?
Ms. Radhika.
Yeah?
Sorry for interrupting. Could you please repeat the Pomodoro technique?
The Pomodoro technique? Sure.
Yes.
Basically, it's about, working in short focused sessions. Instead of having long sessions, study for 25 minutes first, then give yourself a 5-minute break. Go back and repeat the same process 4 times. Okay. Instead of sitting at a stretch for 1 hour or 2 hours and then taking a long break, have short focused sessions and short breaks. And that really helps better because, your mind also is funny. If you tell your mind that let's sit down for 3 hours, we are going to sit in this place and not get up for 3 hours, your mind will be like, are you sure you want to do that? But if you tell your mind that let's sit down for 25 minutes, your mind will be like, I'm up for that. 25 minutes, I can manage. Okay, so that helps. And then just repeat the same process multiple times. That really helps with focus. And it's not just used in education, it's actually used in businesses to improve productivity as well. So it's a very good technique that you can try. And then if you think you get comfortable with 25 minutes, you can also increase the time span. But once you repeat this process 4 times, let's say we've done the 25 minutes, we've taken a 5-minute break. Repeat it 4 times and then take a longer break for 15 to 30 minutes, okay? Then you can continue the process. That will help you. Okay, then schedule practice sessions separately. Have different days or different times allocated for the practice of different topics. Don't combine them with understanding the concept. First, understand the concept. Once you're clear with it, then schedule a session that, okay, I'm going to focus on the study hub questions for this chapter now. Okay. Okay, now for working students, again, I know that perfection is impossible. And not just for working students, for a lot of us. We may have a whole day, we may be full-time students. So perfection may be impossible, but it's consistency that beats intensity. Okay, if you are consistent, it's much better than you sitting for 1 day and intensely revising. 10 days of shorter phases are better than 1 day of intensity. Small daily progress compounds. You will think that, how will 30 minutes a day help me? I am in a professional course, 30 minutes per day is nothing, and you'll be surprised. Sit for 30 minutes every day and see how much you'll achieve by the time you reach the exam. I'm not saying 30 minutes is the ultimate time to study. No, but I'm just saying that instead of not doing anything at all and waiting for the last week before exams and then studying like a maniac, let's try having small daily progress. Okay, that will help you more. And then for working students, protect your study time like it's an important client appointment. Okay, when you've set your time, let's say at lunchtime, or if your employer lets you leave work at 6:30, don't say that, okay, today let me complete this assignment. It's 6:30, and you'll be like, no, today let me work till 7 so that I reduce my workload for the weekend. Friday is approaching. So today I'll sit here till 7 and get my tasks done. No. If 6:30 is your time to start studying, protect that time like an appointment. Okay, leave every other task aside and get to your study. Because if you're going to put your studies at lower priority than your work, it will reflect in your performance. I know work is important. I know we have work commitments, but that doesn't mean that you sideline your studies. Okay, you've entered this course and you've paid the fees, so you're committed to the course as well. You're committed to your education as much as you're committed to your employer. Okay, so make sure you give them the equal weightage. Then what are practical ideas for working students? How can they manage their time well? You can do audio revision during travel. So in case you've forgotten a concept, you can go back to the videos that are recorded in class. Of course, you're driving, maybe you can't watch the video, but at least listen to your teacher's explanation. So on the way to work, some of us live far, that those 25-30 minutes by the time you reach work, when you listen to your teacher explaining on audio revision, that could help you as a recap of the chapter. Okay, look at flashcards during breaks. I told you the study hub has flashcards, or you could make your own flashcards as well. Okay, look at them during the breaks and recap important areas. Use the weekends, as we're approaching now exams, use the weekends to do mocks. Okay, weekend is the time I believe that we have the most in the week, and so I know it's the only time you have for your entertainment as well and for your social life. But since exams are near, let's use the weekends wisely. And then after June, we can all, relax till the next study session. So allocate your weekend time to doing practiced, what do you call it? Exams under timed condition. Okay. And early morning study. I know there are people who say that I'm a morning person, I'm a night person. But trust me, even night people, try waking up one day and seeing the joy of studying in fresh air early in the morning rather than at night. It really helps. Early morning study for difficult topics really, really helps. Okay. Now, what's the exam technique that most students ignore? Technique that can change your results. First of all, anytime you see a question, the first thing you read is not from line number 1. The first thing you read is the requirement of the question. Okay. Why is that important? So that by the time you're reading the case, you already know what to look out for in the case. We know that section C has big cases. So if you start by reading the case and then you read the question, you'll again have to go back to the case and say, okay, now this is what I need to go back and look out for. Yet if you started reading the question requirements first, and then you went on to reading the case, you would have saved time. I'm not saying that we'll read the case once and we'll be able to answer all the questions and not refer to the case again. But definitely reading requirements first and reading requirements properly helps. An example of reading requirements properly, there are a lot of section A and B questions, the MCQs, the MTQs. They say that which of these is not the right way to do so and so. Now, I don't know how, but students usually just ignore the word not, a lot of them. And they select, the examiner chooses his options wisely. It's not like he puts the right answer and the rest of the options are not well thought of. He knows exactly the mistake you're going to make. And that's the option he's going to put as option B, C, and D. Okay, so read the requirement properly. Don't ignore the word not. Don't assume the question, okay? Read the question. Don't read 2 words and then assume the rest of the question. Answer exactly what is asked. If the examiner is asking you in, let's say, in a topic of interpretation of ratios, and he's telling you that interpret the analyze the profitability of the business. Now, you who's very good at, liquidity ratios, so you start talking all your knowledge about liquidity ratios. But is that what was asked? Showing the examiner that you know one topic so well, yet that's not what he asked for is, of course, no good. Allocate your time. Like I told you, 1.8 minutes per mark works for every exam. Okay, just multiply the number of marks times the minutes. 1.8 minutes times the number of marks in each section. Make sure you present your work professionally. We have CBE exams, and I know it's a challenge for a lot of us, but then obviously the answer on how to overcome that challenge is to not wait for the exam day as being the day where you see the CBE for the first time. Make sure that you do CBE practice. In fact, by now we should all be on the CBE practice. When you're doing a section C question, don't do it on your book, in your notebook, just because you're comfortable with writing. And yes, you may get the entire question correct in your notebook, but trust me, try putting that on the CBE area, the workbook. It's not the same. And when I say it's not the same, I don't mean it's more difficult. In fact, it's easier because in the CBE, we all know that we use basic formulas. So once we change a figure, let's say we made a mistake and we went and changed one figure. If we've used formulas, all the corresponding figures that were related to that formula will change automatically. And guess what? Hasn't that saved you time rather than having to rework everything if you were manually doing it? If you're having challenges accessing a computer or a laptop, we have that facility at MAT. Okay, make use of it. There's so many computers. Just go there, ask anyone in the admin that set up for me a computer. I want to practice on the computers today. Okay, they will. No one's going to refuse you. We have, as you've seen, the number of computers we have at MAT. So go there if you don't have the means to practice at home, or if you don't have good internet or anything. Make sure that you attempt all questions in an exam. attempting selective questions, or, their section C, let's say there are 2 or 3 questions, depending on what exam you're doing. If you think that you'll attempt only 2 questions out of the 3, and because you think you're going to get them perfectly, that's reason for you to leave the entire 20 marker. Trust me, those are reasons for failing on 49, 48. So don't leave any question unanswered. And how can you do that? You can do that by moving on when you're stuck. Don't stay stuck, okay? Like I told you, don't waste 45 minutes on a question that's going to get you 5 marks. Just move on. By the time you're spending so long, you know that you're having problems. So go on to the next section. And we have a big danger known as perfectionism. A lot of us like being perfectionists, and you like saying that, once I know everything, that's when I'm going to begin practice. Once I know all the concepts, because if I know them, then I'm going to be very good in my question practice as well. But perfectionism is a problem because it causes delayed practice. It causes anxiety by the time you've reached, a few days before the exam and you've not touched the revision kit. Perfectionism causes lack of exposure. You need to be exposed to the questions, okay? And that will only come if you put your textbooks aside and pick out your revision kits. And perfectionism causes panic before exams. It does, okay? It does, because you've not focused on the application stage. You've only focused on getting the knowledge. So remember that you are allowed to get questions wrong. There are times when I've started revision classes. Of course, I tell my students that, come to the revision class of knowing that it's revision. So I'm hoping that you have covered the chapters or you've covered the content that we've done in class. And we are here not to learn a concept. We are here to learn how to apply the concept. And they come to the revision and they get the questions wrong and they're so disheartened. But then you're allowed. It is okay to get questions wrong. Okay, until the day of the exam, okay? Because this is all part of our practice. So it's okay to get questions wrong in revision. It doesn't mean that you stop doing that area. No, you do more of your weak areas, as we already spoke. It's okay to feel confused initially, okay? People tell me, Miss, I'm totally lost. And then they just want to close their books and give up. It's okay, it happens to everyone. But what you do after is what matters the most. Don't keep your books closed on that area. Focus on that area more, and that will help you to improve gradually. So you're allowed to improve gradually. You don't need to wake up and be a perfectionist, okay? Perfection will come gradually. It's okay. Now, how should you build exam confidence? Confidence, like I said, the word is build. Confidence is built. Confidence is not wished for, okay? Don't just say, I wish I was confident like my friend. Your friend has worked on building that confidence. It's not come to them naturally. Your friend is confident because they've practiced repeatedly. Your friend is confident because they've reviewed their mistakes, they've done timed mocks, they are familiar with the exam format, and they have seen improvement over time. And that's what made them confident, okay? Think about this. What gives you more confidence? If you read a chapter and you're happy, you've understood the chapter, does that give you more confidence? Or do you solve a question and get it correct? Does that give you more confidence? Okay, the answer to that is going to tell you that confidence is built. It's not something you wish for. How do you manage? Now you've done your preparation, you've followed my advice and done question practice. So the problem is you're just an anxious person. You see a quiet room, you see a lot of people, serious looking faces, and you get exam anxiety. So how do you manage that problem? First of all, just know that it is very normal to get nervous. Even strong students feel nervous, okay? So how can you avoid, or how can you reduce that nervousness before the exam? The best way is to replicate the exam day before the exam. MAT, you can do your mocks online. I know we are aware that the mocks that are going to be set by your tutors, you can do them from home, yes, but you are encouraged to come to school to do them. And the reason for that is so that they simulate the exam conditions for you. They're going to put you there in an isolated room and they're going to be quiet. And the AC is going to be blasting on you. I hope so. I mean, I don't know if they're going to put the AC for you, but you know, there'll be silence and it will be you sitting there on the desk and with a few friends of yours around, equally nervous. But then that's practice. Okay. So that when the actual exam comes, you've been there, done that, and your nervousness really reduces. You're comfortable because you've done it before. Sleep properly before the exam. Don't try and read late in the night before the exam. You know, my dad, in fact, used to, if I opened a textbook before my exam or even a few days before my exam, my father would actually shut that book and say, go watch TV. He would shout at me that, why are you reading? Go watch TV. And that was his idea, you know, of calming me down or of relaxing, because there is nothing that you're going to get reading the night before the exam. Okay, you may think that, yeah, I've understood the concepts, but trust me, in the morning, because of that panic reading, you'll forget not just that concept, but 2 or 3 other concepts as well because of the panic. And they'll come back once you're calm. So sleep properly before the exam. Avoid panic discussions before the exam. You know, your friend comes, you're both, 10 minutes before you enter the exam hall. She says, oh, do you know, I think that last exam session, they didn't bring cash flows. So this time they'll bring cash flows. And you'll be like, oh my God, okay, let's quickly revise cash flows. So avoid panic discussions. It will make you forget even the things that you know. Okay, focus on your preparation. And if you get a difficult question, just breathe and move on. And when I say move on, I don't mean that leave the entire 20, 25 mark difficult question. Attempt it to the best of your capability in, in a relevant time frame, and then just move on. It's okay that it was hard. Move on to the rest and see where you can get other marks from. So what should you do the day before the exam? There's a 24-hour strategy. Review your summaries if you've made, or review the flashcards. There are chapter summaries on the ACCA Study Hub. Review your common mistakes. You can even do that mentally. You know, where am I? What is my mistake? My mistake is that I read questions too quickly. So I will take my time in reading the questions. Like I told you, sleep properly. Prepare your documents in case IDs are needed, or whatever, calculators, whatever you need to take to the exam. Make sure that's set so that in the morning you don't wake up searching, panicking for those things. And stay calm. Do not attempt to study an entirely new topic 24 hours before the exam. Yeah, there's students that do that, because they've got their holiday from work in the last minute. So 24 hours before the exam is when they're going to cover 3 chapters according to their plan. That is disaster. Do not study an entirely new topic before the day of the exam. Don't compare your preparation with your friends. Just don't discuss anything before the exam with your friends, okay? Talk about random other things. And then don't panic because your friend came and told you that I've studied everything twice. And then there's you with your one-time studying. Don't get nervous. Your one time may be more perfect than their twice, okay? What should our exam day mindset be like? The exam is actually not, the exam is if I say it, the exam is your stage. Think of yourself like an artist, or think of yourself like an athlete. You've attended classes, you've done the revision questions, you've done the mocks. So there is no reason why you should not want to go to the exam. Go to the exam with the mindset that this is my stage to perform. This is what I have prepared for the last many months. And I want to show the examiner what I know. I want to show him that I'm good at this. So the exam is performance time. That's the mindset that you should go to the exam with. During the exam, start confidently. Okay, keep your confidence. It's okay that you may see some hard questions. Fine. There are many other questions also. Manage your time strictly, like I've already told you. Attempt everything in the exam. Don't leave anything unanswered. Even if you know it's wrong, maybe there'll be some part of it that is right. For the section A and B, there are many options given, okay? So we know that there are four MCQs, 4 answers in a question. So even if you don't know the answer to a section A or B question, just randomly clicking on one of them gives you a 25% chance of passing, isn't it? So don't ever leave any question unattempted. Stay composed after difficult questions. Don't let one difficult question emotionally destroy your next 60 marks, okay? It's okay that the question was hard, but that hard question should not destroy your knowledge on the easy questions. So keep moving, stay composed and keep moving. What are common ACCA student mistakes? I've already spoken about these in one way or the other, but delaying practice, ignoring your weak topics, studying without a plan, revising passively, not doing timed practice of questions, not reviewing your mistakes, leaving mocks to do so late. You know, mocks, like I told you, the mocks show you reality before the exam does. Do a mock the night before exams, because once you face the reality, don't you need time to correct the problem area? Okay, and don't compare yourself constantly with your friends. Everyone is different. Now, coming to the ACCA resources that we must use, there are a lot of ACCA resources. So which one should we use and how should we use them? First of all, the ACCA Study Hub. We know that it contains free material. So it includes the study notes, flashcards, quizzes. Your tutors already give you notes, very good notes. So you don't need to go and read the notes again per se, because you also have the BPP kit. So just reading the same notes from 3 different places, your tutor, your BPP kit, the BPP course book and study hub, no, that's not necessary. But what is good in the study hub is flashcards, the summaries of each chapter. You can use the flashcards for last-minute revision. Quizzes, attempt the quiz. They're chapter-wise quizzes and they're practice questions. So the study hub is excellent for concept reinforcement and revision. It's okay if you don't focus on the study notes. You already get them from your teachers, okay? Then we all know the ACCA practice platform. I hope we all know it. If you don't, please make sure you know it, okay? The ACCA practice platform is essential for CBE exam practice. CBE is the exact format that your exam is going to be in, okay? And like I told you, the exam should not be the day where you see this format for the first time. Please no. Just please no, okay? Make sure that you practice the exam style questions on the ACCA practice platform. How does it help you? It gives you practice in exam environment. It also helps you improve on your timing, because the more you practice on that Excel workbook or on the Word doc, you get faster. Some of us are slow typers. So you can't wait for the exam day to start practicing your typing skills. Do it so that you practice in advance. It also helps you learn the exam tools. So there are some papers that have, what do you call that? Formula booklets or formula sheets. In tax, we have the tax tables. So you should know where to access it. And the practice platform will, if you've used it earlier, the interface will not be new to you for the first time. You will know exactly where to navigate what thing, okay? And the practice platform will help you build confidence. We also have examiner reports. Examiner reports are basically very essential tools to show you common student mistakes. So after an exam session, the examiner releases a report where he picks the most failed or the worst attempted areas in that particular session. He picks that and he explains how it should have been attempted. And he also explains what mistake students made the most in those questions. And because a majority of students made that mistake, trust me, it's common. We may have also thought in the same way. So if you go through the examiner reports, it will, give you an idea that, okay, yeah, this is the same way I would have attempted it. And turns out that's not the right way, isn't it? So what is the examiner saying? What's the right way? That's what examiner reports will help you with. Examiner reports also explain what the examiners expect, and they're extremely useful for improving your exam technique. There's also a lot of specimen exams and past papers. So if you've done the entire revision kit, you can go and do the past papers. They are there under your My ACCA subject-wise. You can use these as mocks, aside of the mocks that you're having in your textbook, aside of the mocks that your tutors are setting. You can practice the past papers under timed conditions. There's also technical articles for every subject. So technical articles is basically the examiner writing about particular topics. And every subject has technical articles. How do you use technical articles? Even after looking at your tutor's notes and even after practicing questions, if you think that you're still finding a topic challenging, you can read a technical article and see whether the examiner's way of interpreting this topic is helpful to you, okay? And technical articles are very important, especially for the professional level papers. So if you're in that level, you can consider reading technical articles as part of your revision plan. And lastly, we have what we call the My Exam Performance. I don't know if you're aware of it. Hopefully you are aware of it. So for the skilled level papers, if you're in the skilled level, if you've attempted an ACCA exam, you get feedback after your exam, okay? And it's specific to you, specific to what you answered in your exam. So the MEP, it's also abbreviated as MEP. It provides tailored feedback on exam performance. And they specifically tell you how good were you at time management, how good were you in each syllabus area. All the ACCA papers are broken down into different syllabus areas. So the My Exam Performance will tell you about your performance in every syllabus area. So wherever you've got the least marks, you know that's where your focus should be. This is more important if you're doing a paper, again, for resits. So if it's the first time that you've done an exam and you've passed it, you still can use My Exam Performance. Maybe look at the broad guidance. Were you bad in time management? Let's say you got a 60 or 70%, and it was highlighted that time management was an issue. So keep that in mind in your other papers, okay? But if you have failed a paper, this is very good, okay? My Exam Performance, go and see where you went wrong and keep that in mind when you're resitting that paper. Now, how do you use the resources properly? I've told you so many resources, but how can you use them in the best possible way? Okay, so the resource strategy that actually works, so the suggested combination, use the study text and your tutor's lectures to learn the concepts. But by now, we should be past that stage. Use the ACCA Study Hub to reinforce the concepts through the quizzes and all that. Use the revision kits for extension question practice. That's what we are at now, okay? We are also at the next stage. After doing extensive question practice, not just on our paper, in fact, don't do it on paper. Use the BPP kit with the practice platform. So open your kit and then make sure you answer the question on the ACCA practice platform so that it gives you an idea of the real feeling of the exam. And then you can use examiner reports to improve your technique. Okay, so there's no single resource that is magically going to guarantee you a pass. How you use the resources and at what time is what matters the most. Mock exams are very important, like I've already told you. So it helps you experience the pressure that you would otherwise feel on the real day. Okay, so do a mock so that you reduce the pressure on the real exam day. It also helps you test your timings. How good are you with time management? It builds your stamina to sit through a 3-hour paper. Some of us, it may be the first time that we're doing a long paper, maybe we're just progressing from the knowledge to the skills level. So do we have the capacity to sit for 3 hours? A lot of us are fresh from high school, where we're not used to sitting for a long duration. So doing a mock will build your stamina for the real exam. It will help you identify weak areas, and it will also improve your performance under stress, because a mock, just like the name goes, it's a mock, okay? It's depicting what you expect on the real day. What can I advise you? Attempt the mock in exam conditions. Time yourself, okay? Don't take a pause. Don't check notes while doing a mock, and review the mocks thoroughly afterwards so that you see where the problem is and how you can improve it. Now, just for some motivation, when it gets difficult, remember that ACCA is difficult for everyone, and progress may not always be visible immediately. And if you fail once, that doesn't mean that's the end of your ACCA journey. One failure does not define your future. Trust me, I know people in very good workplaces who have failed one paper like 13 times. The same paper, not different ACCA papers. They failed one exam 13 times. Yeah. And right now they are fully qualified, very successful in a very good firm, okay? So don't get demotivated with your failures, but definitely learn from them. And discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation is important, but discipline is more important. Your consistency on the ordinary days is what is going to create extraordinary results for you. If you failed before, this if you have failed an exam and this is going to be a resit for that particular exam, remember that failure is feedback, okay? You failed, and like I told you, you may have my exam performance, but even yourself, you would have known where you went wrong, okay? There are many students who come out of exams knowing that they're going to fail. So if you know that you're going to fail, you definitely know why you're going to fail. And that's the feedback, okay? So I know why I failed, so what should I do to improve it? And that should be your focus for your next exam. There are many qualified ACCA members who failed before passing, so don't get demotivated, but instead focus on what went wrong. Was it lack of practice? Was it time management or anything? You know, depending on the problem, focus on the relevant solution. Failing an exam does not mean that you cannot qualify for ACCA. It simply means that your strategy needs improvement. So what's the peak performance formula? You know, the guaranteed formula for ACCA success is consistency, practice, review, right exam technique, and finally calmness. So don't expect success to be a big breakthrough. Success is repeated small actions. And top performers, top performing students are not the smartest ones, trust me. They are the most disciplined ones. They are the ones who have done the right steps again and again to make them successful. And that's it from my side. A lot of speaking from my side, but I hope it's been insightful. Is there anything that you want me to still add on or say, although I've said quite a lot? But yeah, feel free to ask me any questions that you have. I'm here to answer them. Or share your insights, maybe what has worked with you. These are my views. We have a lot of students who have done things and it has worked for them. So if you want to share your success story with the rest of the batch, feel free to do so as well.
For you, this is a joke. You count it on the things you've done. You put a table mat.
Hilda, you're saying something? Ahmed, thank you so much. I appreciate. I'm glad it was helpful.
Tray, sweep here. Those are the things you're supposed to be doing, but you're seated on the tab.
Any questions? Any things we want to share with the rest of the group?
Good evening, Miss Radhika.
Good evening, Stacy. Tell me.
Thank you very much for the, I would call it encouragement, really. Most of it feels encouraging to hear that. Oh, somewhere you mentioned that after doing the mocks, we should check ourselves, go through and things like that. But when I was doing level 1, the CVEs that we had, when you finish doing it, you are unable to access it again. So how do you re-access it? Like to see how you answer the questions and things like that.
You're referring to the actual exam or the mock for level 1?
The mock for level 1, like when you're doing those practice mocks before the exam. When you finish and you submit, then they bring for you whatever you've gotten, but you're unable to access it again. Like you can't see and assess yourself. The questions that you failed, why did you fail it? What could be the right response or things like that?
Did you use the My ACCA practice platform, or you were using another thing for the mocks? There's so many different types of mocks, you know. So did you use the practice platform?
Maybe Radhika, let me come in for that.
Yeah.
Her question is that MAT Abacus has been assigned to allocate mocks to students, and these mocks, we get them from the Educator Hub site, which we give to different candidates depending on the number of papers they're doing, but it's only applicable for the first 4 papers. It's only low that we have not been receiving. Her question was that when you do a mock for the on-demand papers, that is BT, management accounting, financial accounting, the feedback they give you, they only show you areas of weakness, areas of strength, areas of average performance, something like that. And they can only give you the option of redoing the mock, like a refresher. You can refresh the mock and do it again.
Okay.
But just to respond to her is that the fact that these papers are ORs, they are objective response questions. They do not have to repeat them over and over, like there's a past paper for BT. No, they always bring refresher mocks simply because they don't want you to get used to the same questions, and yet you're going to find something different in the real exam condition. But you can add on that.
Okay, yeah. So basically the level 1 is different from the other levels. And yeah, like you said, they don't really want you to repeat. In fact, if you've noticed, level 1 has least resources for practice compared to the others, where even past papers are available for other levels, and for level 1 that's not really the case. But fine, if like Richard has said, they highlight certain areas. They don't give you in-depth analysis of where you went wrong and stuff. But from a broad idea, from just looking at the questions that you failed, you can know your particular problem area, and you, in fact, you do the mock, you've seen the questions where you went wrong, and then go to the revision kit or the study hub, focus on the same areas of questions, and then just repeat them. Yes, you've not got detailed guidelines like the other level papers. You've not got detailed guidelines on what went wrong in that particular area, but you just know that particular area went wrong. Okay, so use other sources and focus your revision more on that area. Okay, so I hope that's helpful on that. Thanks, Richard, for coming in. Yeah, Stacey?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sorry I went off. I'm moving on the road, yeah?
Oh.
That's why I couldn't respond.
Oh, that's okay.
I was getting out of that taxi, I'm sorry, but that's what I actually needed.
Okay, no worries, thank you. Masisi is telling me that he is struggling with professional skills. So how can he improve his professional skills? First of all, professional skills are about application. Application, there's analysis, there's evaluation. One thing I can tell you is, first of all, to be good at it, you must know what it means, okay? And there is what we call a list of verbs. There's a list of verbs, and it is there, that article is there on the ACCA platform. What does each verb mean? List, identify, explain. The initial problem starts there. A lot of students, they don't know what the question is asking for. The question is asking for analyze. Do you know what the meaning of analyze is? Make sure that you go there. It's a very good article, and I'm sure you'll figure your way around it, but it's there on the ACCA website. First, start, Musisi, by looking at that article. Understand the meaning of each verb. When they say analyze, what do they want you to do? When they say evaluate, what should an evaluation contain? The good, the bad, the conclusion. That's a very essential skill. And for you to get your professional skills in check, you first must need to understand the question requirement. Secondly, for professional skills, it's not about memorizing, it's about applying, okay? Instead of asking yourself, what is the definition of this? Ask yourself, why does this matter? What problem does this solve? What advice can I give this person? Those are professional skills, okay? And then when you're writing your answers for professional skills, there are a lot of us who start writing. The point is just simple. The point is that the performance of company X improved because, revenue was higher because of a marketing strategy. That would have been enough. But what the student does is that they write a whole page of explanation on that very point. And that's where they lose marks. They think that if they overwrite on one good point, it will give them all the 5 marks. That's not going to help you. You need to write short but clear paragraphs, okay? The depth does not matter. The point matters. Yes, of course, at higher levels, you do need a bit of depth, but then don't over-explain as well. Write short, clear paragraphs. Organize your work. Professional skills are about, organization. Have headings, have subheadings in your answer so your examiner can clearly see. Avoid using unnecessary fancy words, which perhaps you also don't know the meaning of. Some people want to show their English skills, and they end up using the wrong word in the wrong context. And in professional skills, one thing that is very important is giving conclusions and recommendation. So if you're in the higher level papers, that's the area you need to focus on, okay? So you're saying that the company will face liquidity problems, let's say. Why will the company face liquidity problems? So the company may face liquidity problems because of, therefore, management should consider those are the professional level skills that you need. And it's going to come with practice, Musisi, like I've said. You know, what the advice I gave here was general to all papers. So practice it, do more questions, and also read the examiner's answers. When you read the examiner's answers, it gives you an idea of how he expects you to write if such a scenario comes up, okay? Obviously, the exact same scenario, the exact same number will not repeat itself, but the context repeats themselves. So once you've read something similar, then you'll be able to apply it in the future. So I hope that's helpful, Musisi. Khadija. Thank you, Khadija, for your kind words. The challenge is on your side. And yeah, yes, Khadija, thanks for acknowledging that. You know, some people, they just feel that, you know, if a teacher is good, they'll definitely pass. And if a teacher is not good, that's the reason why they're failing. I mean, of course, if a teacher is not good, that's a problem. But then, you see, the teacher doing their part is just 50% of your ACCA journey. The other 50% is all you. And like Khadija has acknowledged, she said the challenge is on your side now, okay? Your tutors have done their part. They've taken you through the course. They've taken you through the revision, or they are going to take you through the revision. So it's now, the ball is now going to be in your court. Do what it must take on your end, okay? And thank you, Khadija, for your kind words. Edwin is asking me, is there a way you can hand in practice assignments to examiners for review? Edwin, you can't hand in to examiners. They don't do that, but you can definitely hand in to your subject tutor, who also has the knowledge of an examiner. So don't worry. A lot of your subject tutors are trained in ACCA style marking. So you can definitely just hand in your assignment to your tutor and they'll tell you how best to improve, okay? Any other questions? Anything anyone wants to share for the rest of the group? Any solid success strategy that I've missed? You know, tell them. Let's share the joy of passing together rather than, you know, coming with our 80-90% and then our friends are crying on their 20s. No, hopefully not. Also, another thing, and I've said this to my students, and my students know this, that, okay, let me ask you, if you're my student, I know you know the answer, but first of all, what are we aiming for? Tell me, I know we're all at different levels. What's the mark that we want to achieve in our upcoming exams? Charity, I'm going to come to your question in a bit, okay? Stacy, okay. Okay, let me first answer your questions, then I'll get to mine. Charity is asking me, what does exam technique mean in professional papers, especially AFM? Exam techniques in the professional level papers is about application, okay? Application is across all ACCA papers, but then it's less in the knowledge ones. It is a bit more in the skills, and it is the most in the professional level papers like AFM, okay? So exam technique, how do you know, are you able to apply the concepts? And how are you going to be able to get that? The best exam technique, not just for professional papers, Charity. Like I told you, what the advice I've given is across the papers. Practice exam style questions before the paper. That is the best exam technique. When you do it, you already know what to expect. You already know what to do once you see that in the exam, okay? Stacy, will the mocks we have been assigned be assessed by you or our lecturers? Stacy, it's going to be generally what happens with the mocks is that section A and B is auto-marked, and section C, all your tutors, all your subject tutors are going to release debrief videos sharing exactly how to attempt the question. So you will get your marks for section A and B, and section C, you're going to have a video from your particular subject tutor showing you exactly how to mark or how to attempt that section C question, okay? Donald, I will share the presentation. Fine, I'll share it with admin and then they will share it with you. Hola, what are the paper pass marks? Or what is the ACCA standard pass mark? Is 50%. So on those lines, what are we aiming to achieve in our upcoming exams? What's the mark that we want to get? We want to pass. The pass mark is 50. Christopher, self-teach, and biggest problem is procrastination and the feeling that you've not done enough. Yeah, Christopher, I would advise against self-teaching. We do feel that, yeah, it's going to be enough. And I know there's a lot of resources available these days, and that's why we're getting more and more confidence in self-teaching. But trust me, and maybe if you don't trust me, try it out yourself. One session, MAT has the first 2 or 3 sessions at the start of every semester are free. So I encourage you to attend that for any one exam and any one sitting, attend those free sessions and you'll see the difference between learning with a tutor and self-teaching. And, that's where the problems come. Your tutor gives you a lot of guidance, but as an individual, yes, you have the resources, but do you know how to use the resources? With a tutor in class, you're there sitting with 20, 30, 40 other students doing the same thing that you're doing. So they also put you under pressure, or they also keep you on your toes. The friends that you study with, that because they've read a chapter already. So then you get the pressure. Oops, I didn't read the chapter. That's how you're going to avoid procrastination. But for now, because you've already self-taught, your problem is procrastination. You've acknowledged it, Christopher. So work on it. The feeling that you've not done enough only comes when you've actually not done enough. Okay? I've given you the plan. I've told you what to focus on. Right now, we just have a few days, less than a month before our exams. So what should you focus on? Focus on the revision kit. It's your Bible in the remaining days. Okay. If you've not touched the revision kit yet, look at the number of days that you have before your exam and look at the number of questions in the revision kit. Divide the questions by the days. You must complete the entire kit and not just part of it, the entire kit. Keeping in mind, leave some days for mocks, okay? At least a week before your exams, latest, do a mock so that you see. Of course, the tutor-assigned mocks are earlier, but then there are other mocks you can do under timed conditions for better practice. So a week before the actual exams, do the mock under timed conditions. And when you're using the revision kit, select a few section B or C questions and do those also under timed conditions, okay? Don't procrastinate, Christopher. You're doing it. The only way to overcome it is by not doing it, okay? And the feeling that you've not done enough, that means you definitely have not done enough. You know it. So now do the right thing. Celia, what are the requirements for what? Requirements for what, Celia? Khadija, my dear girl, 60. No, we are not. Are you telling us? Yeah, Gusty, you've been to Gusty, you've been to my class and you're telling me that the aim is you're telling me 60%, someone is telling me 50%. The requirements for the Teddy, Celia, sorry, are you asking me the requirements in terms of the pass mark or in terms of any other specifics? Gusty, you were in revision. You've been using the videos, huh? I didn't see you in the live. So, if you have ever been in my class, you also know that when I ask you, what are we aiming to get as the mark from the exam? Don't tell me anything below 100%. Thank you, Faith. All the marks, okay? All the marks. And I know you're thinking, you want to laugh at me when I say aim for 100% because you believe that's not possible. Let me tell you, there are people who have gotten 100%. And still you may say, okay, the probability is very low. But why am I saying 100%? The reason why I'm saying is 100% is that if you go to the exam saying that I only want 60% or I only want 50%, that's like telling the examiner that even before seeing the paper, keep your remaining 40% with you, or keep your remaining 50% with you. Me, I'm only interested in 50. So even before looking at the paper, how are you concluding that you only want a certain mark? You want the 100%, okay? That should be your target. Aim for the 100%. And a lot of us in our ACCA journey only aim to pass. Let me tell you that ACCA and MAT, both ACCA individually and MAT as the institute, we do recognize your efforts for excellence. And so ACCA recognizes the people who have got the highest mark in each exam sitting. And if you've been a MAT student and you've received that appreciation from ACCA, MAT also appreciates you in their own way. You do get a certificate. There's a nice award ceremony. And trust me, that matters. When you enter the job market, you may already be in jobs, or you may plan to enter the job market later on. Standing out, those achievements, that best prize winner in paper so-and-so, or best affiliate in ACCA, it makes you stand out amongst others who have done ACCA. I don't want to boast, but personally, I've experienced this. I'm just telling you for the sake of motivation that I did do well in quite a number of papers, and I was recognized. And at that time, they used to even publish our photos in the newspapers. So by the time I finished my last ACCA exam, they published the best affiliates. So they published our photos. And I remember getting calls from MAT saying that there are 3 companies here who have come asking that they want to hire you. Are you willing to work with them? Can we share your contact with them if you're looking for jobs? And that's not a made-up story, okay? It's a true story. So they see that companies recognize the top achievers. There's so many people doing ACCA. There's so many people doing CPA. What is going to make you stand out from another person when you're applying for the same job role, okay? So aim to excel, don't aim to pass. And only when you aim for it will you try for it. Because if we have that mentality in mind that all I want to do is pass, trust me, your revision will also be on those lines. You'll only revise to get that 50%. But if you aim to excel, you will put in the extra efforts for that extra achievement. Okay. Celia, what is the requirements for the exam? It depends on the particular exam, but then you're asking me, what do you enter the exam room with? You do need your ID card, of course. And some exams, I think the knowledge papers, they have an exam docket. I think admin will be able to better give you the details on that, but ID card would be required. Sometimes you need an exam docket. Reach out to admin on that. And of course, your stationery. That's pretty much it. Nothing more fancier than that. And also, remember that even if you're doing a CBE exam, you are allowed rough paper. Your section A and B questions don't need workings. They just need you to input the answer, okay? So don't forget to ask the examiner for rough paper in case the examiner forgets. They cannot deny you rough paper. You need it. And don't be neat on the rough paper. Just scribble the workings required to get you the answer. You're not going to submit the rough paper, okay? So work quickly on the rough paper. Even section C sometimes, although it's all online, section C, you must show your workings. If you feel you need to scribble down something, scribble it on the rough paper to help you put your final answer together. And lastly, calculator. I know that the CBE platform has the on-screen calculator. Please do not go to the exam thinking that you'll use that on-screen calculator. That is absolute, sorry, I don't want to use the word, but that's absolute nonsense, okay? If you think that you're going to use that calculator, of course you can use that calculator, but think of the amount of time you will spend using an on-screen calculator. You must go with a physical calculator. Don't forget that, okay? Augustine, okay, that's great. I'm glad they were helpful. Okay, any other questions before we wind up the session? Any other insights? I hope we're good. I hope I've answered pretty much your concerns, and I hope I've motivated you, okay? I want you to look forward to the exam. I don't want you to be afraid of the exam. Like I said, the exam is your stage, and go show the examiner what you've prepared for. And that means you must prepare for it beforehand. You're welcome, Celia. The requirements, Veronica, I believe you will need an ID card For some papers, I think like the first papers, you need an exam docket, but you need to confirm that with admin, the exam docket. Unless, Richard, are you there? Could you? Okay, Richard's off right now. Is someone from admin, can you confirm whether there's a docket needed for the first initial paper? And you do need your stationery. Veronica, definitely go with a calculator. There is an on-screen calculator given, but please don't rely on that, okay? How best to score the professional marks, Charity? Professional marks, I was telling someone else asked that question. Professional marks are more about application, okay? And one thing I recommended is go online, go to the ACCA website. There is an article on the key terms. So it lists all the key terms like identify, calculate, describe, evaluate. First of all, to score the marks, you need to understand the question requirement. And in the higher level exams, the requirements are more on analyze and evaluate compared to identify or describe, okay? So for you to analyze and evaluate, you need to know what it means. What does the word analyze mean? What does the word evaluate mean? So go get that article from the ACCA website and first read it, okay? And then secondly, like I told you, it's mostly about application and evaluation. So instead of having your line on thought on what is the definition of something, think about things at the professional level. You need to think about things like, why does this matter? What problem does this solve? What advice can I give? Okay, those are the lines of thought you should have at the professional level. And for that, you must have practiced enough. So use the revision kit wisely, practice the questions well, and of course, do mocks. Like I said, the advice I gave applies to all the levels. It was a general advice, okay? Okay, then. Any more questions, or we call it a session? Okay, if no more questions, thank you for being a good audience. And I wish you the very best in all your exams and in your ACCA journey. Charity, sure. Okay. And yeah, I'm waiting to see prize winners. Okay, it's okay that you're not doing my paper. As part of MAT, you're part of us. You're part of the MAT family, or you may be joining us for the future papers. So I do want everyone to have a target to excel in the papers. Please don't just aim for the 50%. Aim for the 100%. Okay, if we aim for it is when we will work for it. If we aim for the 50. And let's say we fail here or there a few questions, guess what? We'll end up getting 48, 45, isn't it? So make sure you aim for the 100, okay? Prepare for that 100%. And it's possible. People across the world, if you look at prize winners, you will see many of them have got 100, 99, 98, and we can do it. There is no reason for you to believe that you cannot be that person. So believe, and when you believe, that's when it will happen. Okay, I wish you a good evening and all the very best. I'm glad, Gloria. Thank you.